We've got about 100 suckler cows and we've got 1,000 ewes, and it's the job I love. I've done it ever since I left school, so that's about, it's about 30 years now. I think when you think of the tapestry, the backdrop, the patchwork of fields that Wales is, it's just really special in my belief.
In Brecon, Brexit is getting real.
Well, they're running now.
Yeah.
How relevant is the idea of even pondering that the price of these lamb could fall 30%?
Okay, so at the present time, I look at what politicians say, I watch the news day in, day out, and I look to where we are in terms of red lines and what they're saying. Okay, and when I hear that we're leaving the customs union, we're leaving the single market, I then draw an equation then, what market access that gives me. And at the present time, that's not very high up the steps to free and frictionless trade. It's really, really serious now. This is game time now, because this is people's businesses, this is people's futures, and I would say it's the future of Wales. You know, we've got 6.9 billion contribution to the Welsh economy. This is all in danger if we have a bad deal. We'll have used lamb in now in a couple of weeks' time. Those lambs will be sold in a post-Brexit market, some of them. I need to know that I've got a marketplace for them. I need to know that I'm not going to be swamped by imports and have a break on my export capability.
On this farm alone, they've cut back the number of ewes by 100. The industry facing a double whammy, barriers to the market that takes almost all their exports, and at the same time a new wave of competition from free trade deals with the agricultural powerhouses of the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, there are some opportunities from an independent trade policy after Brexit for the Welsh hill farmers. The priority is definitely maintaining access to European markets on existing terms, and there is the lingering suspicion that in the desperate dash to sign quick trade deals with New Zealand and Australia, the interests of communities like this could be traded away.
Certainly very high up the list of immediate priorities for trade deals after Brexit are New Zealand and Australia. And yet those same Commonwealth allies have thrown a great spanner in the work of Trade Secretary Liam Fox to establish the UK's position at the World Trade Organization. The UK currently trades with such countries on the basis of negotiated EU-wide import tariff rate quotas, for example for 225,000 tonnes a year of imported New Zealand sheep meat. Liam Fox agreed with the EU that the UK's historic share of imports of around 80,000 tonnes would be carved out of the EU quota, but powerful agricultural nations, including New Zealand, Australia and Donald Trump's USA, have objected, saying their trade access has been reduced. They want to maintain the same quota they currently enjoy to both the EU and UK markets, effectively threatening to throw open a whole new negotiation and the need for immediate concessions on access to UK markets. Australia's High Commissioner, the ex-Foreign Minister Alexander Downer, says it's all about free trade.
You give us, the European Union, give us these tiny quotas.
On like beef and lamb.
Beef, yes, beef, lamb and so on, so sugar. You give us these tiny quotas. Now when you leave the EU, the UK and the Europeans have decided that what you'll do is you'll slice off some of the EU quota we have to take into consideration the amount of that quota we've been exporting to the UK. We want a situation when you leave the EU whereby we're not initially any worse off than we currently are.
But people like Welsh sheep farmers and cattle farmers, they want to stay protected and they're worried about Australia, New Zealand cattle and lamb coming in, and they think that this is a ruse to put them out of business.
Well, they have no intention of putting them out of business.
Famously, a majority in Wales voted to leave the European Union, but Theresa May's general election Brexit message also fell flat a year later. Welsh First Minister Carwyn Jones judges it isn't just farmers, but workers in the steel industry and engine factories too that believe protecting livelihoods here means continuing participation in the single market and customs union after Brexit.
We don't want to see a stitch-up behind closed doors that destroys Welsh farming, and the UK government have to give assurances in that regard. But Welsh farming relies on exports, and it relies heavily on exports to the European Union. Not just the EU, we export to the Middle East as well, but without our biggest single market, with barriers being put in our way to export to our biggest single market, how can that possibly be good for Welsh farming? It's never going to be good. And we have to make sure we come to an agreement with the EU first. It's on our doorstep.
Few livelihoods are as potentially impacted by Brexit as hill farming, currently majority funded by EU subsidies and with almost all exports going to the EU, and the prospect of new markets limited by ferocious competition. The equation is different for other industries, even other types of farm, but from Brecon and beyond, the message is that the much promised post-Brexit free trade nirvana will be far from straightforward. Faisal Islam, Sky News, in the Brecon Beacons.